In today's episode of Beyond Resilience, Catherine and Jamie discuss the experience of finishing cancer treatment and transitioning back into life, touching on themes from taking responsibility for your own happiness, seeking support both practical and emotional, and how to start a fresh chapter of your book and move forward.
Good morning, Jamie. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing okay. Doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm just happy to be here, starting out with what's on your heart. So,
I've been sitting with, just a little heaviness myself. And in the past, I think I would try to shove that aside or ignore it. And I'm working really hard to sit in discomfort, right? To sit in whatever is, notice it, and try to work through it. So I'm feeling like the weather here, I guess, a little gray and rainy, but still so excited just to be here with you and see what comes up today. So with that,
well,
how
you
are
would
you?
never know that, my friend. You are just looking just so beautiful with your color of life green glasses, which I absolutely love.
Thank
so
you.
You could have fooled me.
Yeah.
No, I want to share with you. I got back from a funeral of a friend's mom died, and whenever we have something traumatic in our life that we have to revisit, and we're going to pay condolences to the people that we love, it also kind of makes you sit back and take some perspective on your life. And I love Stephen Covey's. One of the things I remember saying at my dad's ceremony of life was, it's begin with the end in mind. I thought it was kind of good advice. It kind of hit home to me, and it made me started to think, life goes so fast, and what kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? How do I want people to look at me? And again, thinking about beginning with the end and visualizing that and feeling that in my heart. But really try to give some thought to it. And I would encourage anybody out there who's listening that if there's unforgiveness on your heart, to try to forgive, especially with our family members. And I think that was kind of the message that hit home to me.
Wow. I'm so curious, and we could take that conversation on and on.
We got to go to a coffee shop for that one.
Yeah, exactly. But it's interesting kind of how it ties in with our topic for today, right? In some really beautiful ways. Really thinking about today, what it's like to finish cancer treatment and sort of be launched into life, back into life, if you will, or have a bit of space and separation from your cancer care team, and what that's like, and how to navigate that as a very very personal journey. I certainly know my perspective on that as an oncologist, and that's a big part of why I'm sitting here. I'm curious to know your experience with finishing the heavy part of your treatment and having a little space from your team, and what that was like for you.
I would love to share this, because this is such this is my why for what I really wanted to, after diving into information, as to creating what I feel like is a framework that will help cancer survivors moving forward on a practical sense. And I defer to somebody like you to help them more on the mindful sense. And yes, I that's part of it, because that's the foundational approach, I think, to getting healthy and getting well. But I do feel like you kind of, you're just kind of dropped off in the deep end. And I think a lot of cancer survivors can feel much the same way. All this support that they've had is all of a sudden, and surveillance, right, is all of a sudden dropped to maybe more spatially time where you've got, instead of, and I know things are different now than when I was diagnosed, but more drugs are used, so there has to be a little bit more surveillance. And with me, it's like, okay, see ya, have a good life, call us if you need us, kind of thing. But now I think there's a little bit more with the drug combinations that they're using. From what I understand, there's a little bit more, but there's not a lot in between. And it's just basically logistics. The oncologists, as you know, only have so much time, and not that you would want to be going and seeing everybody again, but I do think should I go get an MRI? Should I go get more scans outside of what your oncologist is recommending? And because you're thinking, should I do all this? And I think that can drive somebody just nuts. And I think so. It's trying to find that place of peace, and that I call it a new normal, but it really kind of is. It's a new normal that you've got to create yourself, and really try to not accept some of the baggage that cancer can leave behind. If you've gained weight, if you're growing your hair back and your hair looks kind of funky, and if you don't have as much energy as you used to, and your food tastes differently than it did. I mean, a lot of these can be side effects, but there are choices involved in this, and it's really an opportunity to believe that these are ideas that, okay, I've always wanted to lose that extra weight. I've always wanted to get a little extra healthier. I've always wanted to implement more of the healthier foods. Well, guess what? This is the time to do it. Like, now's your chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, so many things that you just said just hit me so much, and as I said, I've been part of this experience from the other side, from the oncologist side, and I may have shared in the past how ringing the bell for me, and sort of being at the end, being celebrating finishing treatment or whatever, feels kind of like a racket. Right? Yes, it's wonderful and it's exciting. Don't get me wrong, right? That you're finishing this phase, you've made it to this point, and we're going on. But I've always felt like, as an oncologist, and I think you used the words, jumping in the deep end or something, and I always have felt like it's like dropping somebody off a cliff. Like, peace out, man. Have a good life. Yes, and as an oncologist, that feels so wrong to me, so hard for me, and I think that's a big part of why we're having these conversations, and I'm sitting in this chair, is being able to really get back to whatever you want life to be, and to move on, and that's why I think your story about your friend's mom's celebration of life is so poignant today, and that is that it can be very overwhelming to have some space and some more time in between your visits with your oncologist, and between scans and things like that, and where to begin and what to do, and it can be so overwhelming and scary. And at the same time is such a wonderful opportunity to really think, okay, here I am. How do I want to live life? And what do I want this to be? What do I want my legacy to be, is certainly one way to think about it. But I recognize now that my life is finite, right? I have had this big wake-up call, and now what?
Absolutely. So, yeah. Absolutely. I think it's an opportunity to really focus on your why. There was a study I read that the cancer survivors that actually live the longest, that kind of defy the odds of maybe that initial diagnosis, those are the people that have that will to live. They are fighters, and they have their why intact, and they do not want to go down without fighting. And so they're going to do whatever it takes, and think whatever it takes, and be whatever it takes. And I feel like that's hard for some people. That's really tough. Not all of us are wired that way. And so, but I think we can evolve into that way with the support of other people, with being around those types of people that are naturally attuned to putting on their boxing gloves and actually going out there and saying, you know what, I'm going to fight this thing. We got to find it somehow, because I think the problem is when we surrender. And we surrender to the disease, and we surrender to the side effects, and we surrender to the depression that can set in as a result.
Yeah.
This impacts us physically as well as psychologically. The physical part is that our immune system doesn't work as well as it should when we're in that fight mode of really trying to do and be and think all we can to not let this disease get the best of us. And our new normal is going to be our better normal, and going out there. And I feel like those people who have that naturally are called to support those that don't.
Yeah. I
would hope anyways, and to serve those that don't. And it's such a amazing circle of life that my mom used to say, you reap what you sow. And it really is true. When we sow those seeds of encouragement and hope, and those people that really need it, they're really struggling. They just want to go to bed and feel like this is a bad dream. This is not their life. When in reality, it is their life, and they've got to, pull up the shades, look at the sunshine, and allow the things that are wonderful in their life to take over those things that once was. And that's not easy. That's not easy. But I do believe we can do that. I do believe that those people that have that innate sense of that fight or that positivity need to go out there and truly do all that they can to be encouraging those that, and whether it's Facebook groups or support groups or, seeking friends that are struggling, or just asking, how are you today? It all matters. It all counts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, you bring up a good point, right? That is that some people are able to move on and sort of launch back into life. And other people struggle more and can be incredibly overwhelmed. And I think the key is, wherever you are on that spectrum, is to seek the support that you need, because as you said, right, the more we sit in anxiety and depression, that fight or flight mode, like, oh my gosh, when is the other shoe going to drop? When is this going to come back? Is this going to come back? What do I do?
So true.
How do I move on? That impacts our body in so many ways, including, importantly, our immune systems and our ability to not only fight infections, but also to surveil against cancer cells. And so, gosh, doing whatever you can to really support your body to be as healthy as possible is really critical at this time. And so, thinking about it, and you mentioned, right, there's sort of the practical steps and the mental health and psychological health sort of components. I see those as so intertwined.
They are,
right?
I agree.
And I would encourage, right, anybody who is feeling overwhelmed and is, sitting in a lot of fear or sadness, to find someone to process some of those feelings with, because that will be a key first step to actually being able to manage some of the more practical pieces.
I agree. Now, Jamie, let me ask you, so was some of that piece, did that lead you into developing your coaching curriculum or your coaching services?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I recognized, as I have worked as part of our survivorship program, as an oncologist, this pervasive theme of overwhelm, often associated with either significant anxiety or depression or both.
Right.
And that creating challenges with things like executive functioning, right? Being able to keep track of my day because I'm so overwhelmed that I can't manage making it to the store or figuring out how I'm going to work out or or my body isn't what it used to be, and that makes me really, really sad. And I just can't even begin to think about how to begin moving and exercising. And so it is. I feel like taking this hand-in-hand approach is so key. What feeds my soul is being able to sit with people and have the deep conversations, right? Process whatever's behind some of that overwhelm or fear or sadness. And as a part of that, really move forward with thinking about how to tackle some of the practical steps. So
I love that. I think that's got to be the foundation, because when we do have a choice, right? So, but we have to have the motivation to be able to get up and in that choice, number one, recognize that what I'm feeling, acknowledge that, and then seeking help and guidance if we're not able to get out of that funk, and I think we've all been there, right? Cancer can leave behind blessings if you let it, but you've got to get yourself mentally well and allowing that part to be healed. And I think with seeking, professional services and guidance and counseling is so important when you're feeling that way. It's not something that you should be ashamed of. It's not something that you feel like you're weak or you're strong. It's not a question of that. It's really a question about I need help. I'm at a point where allowing help to come in and not relying on other people to make you happy. I think that's another thing. I want somebody else to make me happy, and that's really not fair. I think to the important people in our life to be responsible for our happiness, to constantly lift us up all the time. We need to take responsibility for that. And it's not your fault. You didn't bring on cancer. This is an unfortunate circumstance that happened. It does not discriminate. I think it's like 5% that actually are genetically predisposed. But there are some other factors that we can make a difference in our prognosis. But we first of all have to get our minds right.
Absolutely, and so I think I'd love to sort of shift into how do you start, right? Where do you go? What can you do? And how to, you walk out of clinic, after ringing the bell or knowing your next visit isn't going to be for 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is for the first time. Mm-hmm. Curious. Yeah. Just if you, as you reflect back on that and, you've done such beautiful things with your life. And I'm sure that there were bumps along the way, and I'm wondering what that experience was like for you and how'd you get going?
There were bumps.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest thing was physically was the hair. When you lose your hair and it comes back and it's gnarly, disgusting hair. And you're like, really? Like, my head is gone for this. This is what I get. Mm-hmm. This Brillo pad. Yes. I mean, I want to scrub my dishes with it. I didn't want to do anything with it. It's like, are you kidding me? Oh, and then of course when it grows in and you're wearing your wig, which I decided to do, which my hats are off for anybody that wears scarves. I think they're beautiful. I could not do it. I was traveling with my kids. And I really didn't want to bring attention to myself. And so I had my wigs. And when your hair grows in, that wig gets to be slippery. So it was all over the place.
No.
I thought on a windy day, am I going to lose this thing? I mean, there are all kinds of things you don't think about. But these things happen as your hair is growing in, as your body is changing. It's just all kinds of things. But I feel like I feel like writing down, journaling. I did a lot of journaling, and I feel like I revisited my why to kind of get my engines going again. Why do I want to live? What do I want to live for? Right. What is my want? And those are cool, really open-ended prompts that you can sit in front of a journal and just let your mind go. And you would not believe when I then revisited those journaling days where I just sat and it's such therapy to be able to just have no time constraints and carve out, okay, I've got 20 minutes. I'm going to sit down here and I'm going to just kind of stew in this, what do I want in my life? What is my why? But I don't think that's a bad thing if you're putting it in context with trying to find appreciation and gratitude and blessing in your life. And those things can be written down and cherished. And now all of a sudden, wow, Cancer has given me an opportunity to look at the things I have in my life that I took for granted every day.
Yes.
And so that's maybe the first step. If we allow ourselves to just feel the confidence of life and knowing that this is all part of my healing, but it's a wonderful, wonderful place to be too.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I feel like, death is this, natural part of life that we all try to ignore, right?
Right.
And then something like cancer comes along that does cause some people to die, many, many people to die. Not everyone, but many. And suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, like I have this thing and it could kill me. And then to get to the end of treatment and say, okay, I did it. I made it to this point, and I still have this thing hanging over me that has given me this new perspective on life. Certainly, cancer is not an easy path, and it can be this beautiful opportunity to really reframe, to reflect. For me, one of my pillars or spheres of launching into life after cancer is certainly sitting with whatever remaining feelings you have that aren't going to go away, but that certainly you can process and decrease them, right? The fear isn't going to disappear, but if you really sit with what's behind that fear and spend some time with that, then
exactly.
my experience is then it doesn't weigh you down quite so much.
This is important. Like, this is important to recognize, and it's important to talk about, and it's important to get some tools in your toolkit to really work through some of these deep, dark emotions that can get the best of you. And I don't think either one of us want that for you. We want you to live your best life. That's why we're here.
Yep.
We want you to be moving on the other side of this, to be able to live in a moment of a blessing and happiness and joy. And yeah, you're not going to feel like that every day, because we all have good and bad days. But to be able to get out tools that are in your toolkit that can help you get out of that place before it gets too deep in the rabbit hole, when we're too down there, and it's just more difficult.
I think about two other sort of important spheres or pillars of health and wellness. One being physical functioning, physical activity, exercise, movement, and another being nutritional wellness.
Right.
And I wonder, Catherine, I mean, those are your sweet spots, I think. But I'm curious, as you sort of reflect on your journey, what it was like for you.
I think the first thing is when you got to realize when you need help, you got to receive help, whatever that looks like. So if that looks like somebody taking care of your kids for a little bit, or somebody bringing over some food, just receive that help when it's just really hard for you. You're exhausted. Some of these side effects from some of these drugs can just leave you with extreme exhaustion and nausea and GI distress. And so I feel like, just make sure that you're getting the help that you need. Talk to your doctor about certain things like that. Maybe they can prescribe some medicine that might be able to kind of reconcile some of those side effects. But movement is important, and movement is so important. When we don't feel like exercise is exactly when we do need to exercise. We want to take the path of least resistance a lot, and so, but that's exactly what we should not be doing. So I would say get an accountability partner, have somebody that and schedule it. So if it's on your schedule, you're more likely to do it. And even if you carve out like 15 or 20 minutes, then you have an accountability partner. So you know that at that time, you're going to have a buddy that is going to help you. And it may not be all the time, but you've got somebody that shows up once a week that you're going to take a walk with, or that you're going to go to the gym with, or you're going to do whatever it is you're going to be doing with. And that helps. And I think when you schedule self-care, when you actually schedule it, whatever that looks like, and knowing that, okay, I'm going to schedule my self-care first, then everything else will kind of have to fall around that. The problem is, I think with a lot of us as women we take care of our families, and then whatever is left over is what we get. And that's really a mistake, I think, when you're really trying to heal after cancer. You need to schedule that time for yourself, whether that's 15 minutes for a hot bath, whether that's 15 minutes for a walk, whether that's help in the kitchen, cooking a healthy meal, whether that's an accountability partner, getting a friend to help you, because you know that on your own, you're going to find 1,000,001 excuses why you don't want to head out the door and go on that walk or go to the gym. And those things all really helped me tremendously, was just trying to schedule self-care and realizing that as I'm getting older, that self-care becomes more and more important. So this is a life lesson that we need to do for the rest of our lives, everyone out there. Yeah. This is not just like post-cancer. Yes. This is not when this is something we need to do forever. And then as far as cooking and trying to be healthier, I would say there's amazing recipes on social, and try one of them. Take a look at it. And if they've got pantry ingredients in it, and they've got a time frame of about half an hour, give it a go. Just see if it's something that you might want to do. And I feel like when we look at our bodies holistically, mind, body, and spirit, we're not just healing one part, we're healing all of us. And if we look at our food holistically as well, if we have lots of different types of healthy foods on our plate, we're actually helping our gut biome, we're helping our immune system, we're helping it taste good, it feels good, we're changing our sensory for our sugar requirements, and all of that is good. And so I think if you look at going healthy as to get curious, and not something that I have to eat healthier. If you rephrase that and you say, I get to eat healthier. And sometimes you're not going to feel like that. Sometimes you're going to be like, and to have that comfort food, that's perfectly fine. But for the most part, if you can get curious and you can make it light and say, you know what, I'm going to try a new recipe tonight. This is going to be fun. We're going to try ingredients we've never tried before. This looks really good. And then, if you like it, put it in your repertoire of good, healthy food and keep making it. If you can kind of get into a schedule, that helps too. I've got about maybe 3-4 recipes that I make kind of on repeat. And it's something I can pull out quickly.
Definitely. Such wonderful, wonderful ideas. The one thing I would add around physical functioning and movement and exercise, certainly, we've talked some about side effects of treatment, and one that comes up for me that feels like I saw so frequently is peripheral neuropathy, and just generalized weakness, muscle wasting, things like that. The reality is sometimes when our bodies don't work quite in the way that we want or that we're used to, that can be really, really hard. And so I would encourage you, if, for people who do have just big changes in how your body's working, to seek out help, right? There are physical therapists who are wonderful for working with neuropathy, lymphedema, other things like that can be really important for helping you to regain balance and strength and flexibility that are key for being able to be active in a safe way. The other is the American College of Sports Medicine and other organizations offer certifications for cancer exercise trainers or physical trainers or personal trainers who have some expertise or some background in what cancer is all about and some of the side effects of treatment and how best to approach somebody as they're recovering from cancer treatment. And so seeking out folks like that. And then we're always here as a resource to help you and connect you with appropriate professionals in your communities. One of the things you mentioned, I think, early in our conversation was the idea of, linking up with support groups or other groups. And it might be kind of fun to think about the two of us, like, co-facilitating a virtual support group for people.
That'd be fun.
It would be really fun.
That'd be really fun. Yeah. I love that idea.
Yeah. As people are, wherever you are in your journey, but certainly I'm, with this conversation, thinking about people as they're really looking at how do I want to live life? And I'm so overwhelmed and I need some support. So food for thought. Maybe we can
I love that.
play with that.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you all listening out there, give us a thumbs up if that's something that you want us to think about, and we can maybe put something like that together and start meeting with you all. I'd love to see your faces, or if not your faces, at least your comments, and just connection with you all.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited. I feel like we're going to have a great day today, and I'm just excited to be able to be with you and here and be able to be with our audience. And just knowing that we're showing our love for you all out there, and you can show your love for us if you'd like to hear, if you like what you've heard, to please subscribe and share our podcast. We're just growing, and we love to, we're trying to grow organically, so it's really by word of mouth. So if you really like what you've heard and you feel like it was helpful, please do share it. Share it on your socials too. Just spread the word. We truly want, our hearts are out here helping you and serving you in the best way we can.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much. And
thank you.
I'll see you soon.
All right. Take care. All right. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast is here to support you. If you liked it, please rate, review, follow, and share, since that's the best way to grow a community together. Please leave us comments and feedback. We're here to help.